Well, let's take a look at the laboratory. Wow.
I don't know if I'd call it a lab, but this is the place that I go when I'm looking at geeky stuff. And it's where I have all my computer systems brought, the electronic pieces are. This is where I did the other side of the pair of servers in a box, where I did the bring up of the hardware, configured the disk, did all the stuff in it. So these are just the sort of stuff that I generally have running around me.
Well, cool. So I just noticed this over here to the left, this little mini motherboard. Looks like, what's that, an ARM chip on that or something? What are you doing there?
Yeah, this is actually an Amatel ARM chip, ARM motherboard. This is an evaluation board for people who do embedded systems. The reason I have this actually has an ARM 9 on it. And so I'm very interested in the capabilities that we're starting to see grow up from these small, very low-power processors. It's no secret that Dell introduced a product line that was a very low-power, I think 30-watt processor. It was actually based on the VIA chipset. And so I'm always trying to understand, what the capabilities of those small processors coming up from the bottom are, because they are growing in capability, and I can actually run some embedded Linuxes on processors like that.
What Linuxes are you trying to run on that?
So my favorite is Ubuntu. It's simple. It's very popular. In fact, it's the most popular Linux distribution in the world, I believe now. And it won't really run that Ubuntu, but I can run some derivatives of it.
Cool. And then what's this up here? This Superman glasses up there, the eye scope.
Yeah, that's a hood. This is actually fairly old. This is a low resolution version of this. But I was trying to understand what was happening to user interfaces. Ways that you can deal with user interfaces that are improving. So by doing this, I can actually have what's a standard definition TV or 640 by 480, rather low resolution displays. But it's also got the sound built into it, so you can get a full experience of what you're doing. The only thing is there are much better versions of this now. I've actually had this one for a couple of years, and the idea of understanding how we can evolve the evolution of the interfaces forward.
So now you've also got a whole rack of servers here. What do you got? This is your file server down here at the bottom? Yeah,
this actually represents a historical record of the systems that I have built, except for this one. This system here is a Dell server. This was an SC420 that I bought a couple of years ago, and it's actually it's the only system I've ever bought in here. The rest of them have all been assembled. It's my file system. You might say it's the golden server. It's got a pair of 500 gigabyte disks in it that are shadowed to each other, so it RAID 1 kind of style. And that's on my network, and all of my good stuff goes to that. So places I want to stay, that's where my daughter's desktop, which has got a lot of notebooks and a lot of pictures and stuff like that, gets backed up. This is where all my important business files get backed up. So it's the golden image server.
And then speaking of software, you're running a whole lot of virtualization too. Do you have a virtualization server?
Yeah, actually I do. Let's see. This system here, this is actually a Conroe-based system. So it's got a gigabyte of memory and 2 gigabytes of memory in it, and it's got a 2.6 gigahertz Conroe, I think. Yeah. And what I'm actually doing there is I use that for my virtualization experiment. And it's a lot about desktop virtualization. I've done the Zen virtualization pieces, and I've done the VMware Virtual Workstation virtualization, and certainly the Microsoft virtualization, virtual PC. The one I've got going right now is VMware's Virtual Workstation. And so I have a bunch of virtual machine images that I can go deal with if I want to see how they behave differently. The one you see here is basically one that's, the idea is it's a private browser. So one of the problems you have when you're browsing the web, especially when you're going to unknown websites, is you can get stuff put down on your desktop, virus-wise, and etc., things like that. One of the things virtualization does, though, is it offers you the ability to save the state where there's a pristine state. So I can go out and I can browse the web and I can get the nastiest, ugliest, meanest viruses in the world. I can come back and restore the state to where it was before I started browsing, and everything is clean again. So that's a very easy way to deal with keeping your machines isolated. Plus, since it's in a virtual machine, all that contamination stays inside the virtual machine. So that's a clean way to make sure that virtualization is a good tool for you when you're out browsing the web. I've got things in here, like I've got places where I put, this is my personal finances, we won't go there. I've got a Citrix VM. It's actually running Windows XP, and runs Citrix in it. And the idea is this is one of those I use for remote to get into my accountants at Dell, so kind of an interesting virtual machine. Well, this one here is PC Linux. This one here is Solaris Express. So anyway, bringing up the Fedora. I think this is Fedora 8, so a couple of others. Kind of an interesting way to deal with understanding how new releases work. If I run them in a virtual machine, I can see, you know, things about them. The cool thing about, again, virtualization is once you get to a state where you know things are stable or you like them, you can save that state, and then you can always restore the state. So that's kind of my virtualization playground. And this one is actually running on top of a copy of XP, so that's what's there.
So you've got kind of a vertically integrated lab up here, because you've got, this is the software stuff here, but then I think you have a little soldering bench over...
Yeah, not really too much. These are my, you might call them the gross tools, where simple soldering. I'm not even a very good one at that, but when I need to do my own work, I like to do my own construction and modifications and things like that. So I do a good bit of that. Also, I have found that there are a couple of websites that I can actually go to have my own PC boards created. There are some fast turn websites that you can use the tools that they provide with you, and you can design a circuit, you can get the PC board laid out, and you know, in a few days you can have 2 or 3 of these small PC boards in the hands. Very good for doing stuff like this, stuff that goes along with this embedded ARM device, etc., things like that. I think I may have an example of that. I don't know where it is. Somewhere in this mess there's an example of that.
And then also, looks like just for fun, you've also got, besides these cool screens up here and the home surveillance stuff, and
yeah, this is part of my home surveillance system. I have a camera that's broken now, but I have full-time, full motion video on all the entrances to my house. And so if you step in one of those cameras, I have a 10-second strip before and afterwards, and I got about a month running a video. Interestingly enough, here in Texas, I've got about a terabyte of deer running through my yard. But that's that one. This is actually my real-time news feed. What this is running the Weather Channel's local forecast. So my family loves this. They go here, they come here every morning and look at that and say, see what's going on, etc. And I've got stock and I've got news and things like that going on there. So that's kind of the mainstay. This is also the console to that virtual machine. I mean, to that file server. So he also is the kind of the centralized console for all the systems management pieces here. So any alerts, anything that happens through Smart, anything that happens through any of the systems where I'm not getting any kind of information back from that system, something's wrong, it comes out on that console up there. So that's where my alerts go. SMP traps also go up there with a little trap monitor that I've got running. And
then last but not least, you've got your little mini home recording studio here.
Yeah, we're in a pretty high stress industry. And this is my release, so I'm not really much of a musician, but what I have found is I can come up here and I can get lost in music.
Excellent. Well, Jimmy Pike, thank you so much for taking us through your home playroom.
You're very welcome.